Welcome to Research Debrief, the podcast that bridges the gap between the fitness industry and the latest science. Welcome, Luke, and what research are we going to get into today?
Okay, Rachel, brand new paper. This is a paper that I am one of the co-authors of. So this is the largest study ever conducted on the topic of resistance training, so strength training volume on muscle hypertrophy. So what this is saying is if you do more sets for a body part, will you have greater increases in your muscle size? So we use the term muscle hypertrophy. It just means muscle size. And so I'm going to walk you through this study design. So we started this study about a year ago. We partnered with some academic colleagues based in the UK. They're kind of in a suburb of London. We've published a lot of research with them over time. Now, the value of partnering with them and them partnering with us is at Discover Strength, we have a lot of sites. And so this is a multi-site trial. We did 22 locations across the United States. And we had significant numbers of participants. One of the problems with exercise science research is it's tough to get enough participants to achieve statistical significance. And I'm not going to go too deep into this. When you design a study, you can do a power test ahead of time. And that power test basically says, well, how many people do I need in this study to make sure that the outcomes we see from the study are due to the intervention, what we're looking at, versus, hey, is this just due to chance, right? And a lot of studies that you look at in exercise science might have 15 participants, right? Well, this study had well over 100 participants. Now, to have a study with 100 participants is tough to do because what we want in our studies is we want direct supervision. And if you do this study at a university laboratory to train 100 people, and let's say you train 3 times a week, and the study is 12 weeks long, which is exactly what this study is, that's hundreds and hundreds of man hours to go into a study. So the funding for a study like that is tough to come by. So what we tried to do in this study is we tried to overcome all of that. So at Discover Strength, we do supervised resistance training. So it's a perfect setup for a study that's larger, a study of this magnitude. So here is the study design, okay? So we have 12 weeks of training. We have 2 groups. It's a randomized study. So when you sign up for the study, you don't know what group you're going to be in. You're randomized to a high volume group or a low volume group. The high volume group does 36 what's called fractional sets. So just think about that as 36 sets. And the term fractional set is popular in the research now. It just means, well, if I'm training my bicep and my tricep, and I do a bicep curl, obviously that's a set for my bicep. But if I do a lat pull down, I'm working my bicep a little bit as well. So if it's kind of an indirect set, we look at that as a fractional set, so we count that as a half a set. Now, don't commit any of that to memory. Fractional set is just a way of kind of equalizing the volume. One group did 36 fractional sets for their biceps, their triceps, and their thighs, their quads, their hamstrings. The other group did 9 sets. So you can see what we're comparing. If you do a lot of volume for the biceps and triceps and for the thighs, or if you do very little volume, which leads to more muscular growth, so more muscle hypertrophy. Now, there's a lot of ways you can test muscle hypertrophy. We used a skin fold measure here. So this is 12 weeks in duration. Now, we wanted to use 12 weeks because that's a longer duration. If you do a 6-week study on muscle hypertrophy, you might say, well, how much is your muscle going to grow in 6 weeks as it is? But 12 weeks is a longer duration. Now, clearly, if the study was 26 weeks or 52 weeks, I think it'd be a more interesting study. Tough to get people to sign up for a 52-week study or a 26-week study. So again, this is the largest study in terms of number of participants ever conducted, and I would say it's one of the longer studies we've looked at muscle hypertrophy. By the way, this study was published 2 weeks ago. This study is everywhere right now on social media. And if you ever want to lose faith in human beings, read all the comments on some of these studies on social media because there's so much back and forth on the nuances of this study. It's become a bit of a controversy, which happens in scientific research from time to time. So I'm going to just walk through the exercises that are performed, and then we'll get into what's the result. So the group that does just 9 sets, they're doing 1 set of each exercise. Their entire workout is a leg press, a leg curl, a leg extension, something for the shin musculature, so that's a tibia dorsiflexion exercise, a pec fly, a pullover, a chest press, pull down, a dumbbell tricep extension, a dumbbell bicep curl, an abdominal exercise, and a low back exercise. They did that in one workout. The other workout, they did a calf exercise, a leg press exercise, a Romanian deadlift, a leg extension, a shoulder press, a seated row exercise, a lateral raise exercise, a rear deltoid exercise, again, a tricep dumbbell exercise like a French press, a bicep curl, and then a torso rotation exercise for the obliques. So that's what the workout looked like for the low volume group. The high volume group basically did the same thing. They just generally did 3 sets of each one of those exercises. And depending on the exercise, they might have done 2 sets. So 36 total sets compared to 9 sets. Here's what we found out. There was no statistical difference between the 2 groups. It just didn't make a difference. So let me share what they write in the conclusion. So the study is, to our knowledge, one of the largest to compare the effects of low and high volume resistance training interventions upon hypertrophy in, this is a key part, in previously trained participants. To be in this study, you needed 6 months of serious strength training. The reason that's important, Rachel, is we always have to clarify, in an exercise study, were the participants trained or untrained? And that's noteworthy because if you're untrained, if you've never done a workout before, or if it's been years since you've worked out, almost anything you do is going to work. But if you have a lot of training experience, maybe the training intervention, maybe you don't respond to it as powerfully. So in this study, everybody was well trained. That's important to note. We found statistical equivalence between both conditions and both main effects on time and any interaction effects for condition by time are likely small. More broadly, this study further corroborates the linear log theory of adaptation, that the effects of resistance training in trained persons should be expected to be small. So it basically says in trained people, you're not going to add a significant amount of muscle over time. So in this 12 weeks, people added just a very small amount of muscle, which should not be shocking. If you have a lot of resistance training experience, you're not going to add a ton of muscle as you continue to train. There's still benefit. We just don't add muscle forever. Now, why is this paper so important? Time is the #1 barrier to exercise for most of the world. Our clubs, we can get the message out that if you really want to add significant lean muscle tissue, if you want to optimize the benefits you see from strength training, you just don't need to do very much of it. 9 sets in a workout is so much more plausible than 36 sets. Now, let's be clear. This says 36 sets produce similar benefits. So if you wanted to do 36 sets, you could stay and do 36 sets. But 9 sets represents a really time-efficient approach. Now, I think the messaging we've had in the past is if you just did 9 sets, if you did a lower volume of strength training, you still get some benefit. What this study says is if you just do 9 sets, you are maximizing the benefit. Doing more sets does not produce better results. And so I think this is a wonderful message for people who are looking to engage in resistance training that are worried about time. When we look at aerobic exercise and we look at strength training exercise, we have more adults in the US engaging in aerobic exercise, meeting aerobic exercise guidelines. We have a very small percentage of adults that are meeting resistance training guidelines. This is a really encouraging study that says you don't need to do very much to maximize the benefits.
Well, this is music to my ears because I have a 3-year-old at home, just like many members. I have 1 hour a day to myself that I can devote to exercise. And so, sometimes that seems like it's just not enough. But now I'm confirmed, like I can go in, I can do my lower volume of sets for strength training, and I'm still doing something really great for myself and maximizing my strength opportunity. So This is,
And Rachel, if you have a friend that says, well, Rachel, it's great that you're doing that. I'm even a little bit more committed because I have more time. I'm doing 36 sets. Your response can be, actually, there's no difference. You can choose to spend your time there, but there's no difference.
Yeah. Very, very impactful for the membership base for sure.